What's up, YouTube fam? All right, we are about to have some fun. We are going to mix a drill beat from start till the end. What we're going to do with this mix, we're going to do some gain staging. We're going to do how I place the tracks in order to keep everything organized, cleaned up, EQ, compression, effects, automation if it needs automation. We're gonna do mix bus compression. We're gonna do some effects on the mix bus. I'll show you how I do my effects on the mix bus. Mix bus. And also, what I want to do is I want to sum out instead of summing inside of the DAW or a digital analog workstation. I'm going to sum in my summing mixer or my summing box. So we're gonna have some fun. Stick around. Check out this dope class, and let's get it. Drill, baby. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. All right, we want to start out with gain staging. All right, so let's see what is gain staging and how I use or how I function with gain staging. Let me turn this up a little bit. All right, so that's my first thing I would do. I start with gain staging. I purposely exported my signals kind of hot. Just wanted to make a point on something. With gain staging at this master fader right here, you don't really, I'm not going to go all into the technical definition. If you want a technical definition of it, you can go Google it and look it up. But I'm just going to explain it. That's easier for people that's novice to this or just getting started. So this master out right here, this master fader right here, you don't want this to clip. Your levels here and your faders are at 0 dB. That means unity gain. That means input equals output. What comes in comes equally out with no attenuation or no boosting. So what you get from the exported tracks, wherever you exported your tracks or wherever you recorded your audio tracks, are coming through these faders as is, and they're going to the output master out, stereo out. Okay, so you notice everything is at unity gain. Now, when I play this, the master gain, I'm sorry, not master gain, but the stereo out will or should clip. Okay, we don't want that. We want some dynamic range in there, some headroom. So let's go ahead and play it so you can see what I'm saying. All right, so you can see the master stereo out has clipped and distorted. We don't want that, so we want to prevent that. So what we have to do to prevent that, we do this thing called gain staging. So basically, we got to figure out a way to lower the signal without touching our faders or affecting our faders to do the lowering. We want to do it. Just say, for example, look at this as a console, and you have the input knob or the input section of the console. You know, you can do your attenuation at the input of the console and before it even hit the fader. So you won't even have to affect pushing these faders up and down. Okay. So let's say, for example, if I had plugins on these faders just like this with the incoming hot signal coming in through the input of the console to the fader. Well, obviously, you don't want that because the problem with that is it's going to work the heck out of the plugin and overload the plugin more than likely, and it's going to sound kind of bad, you know. And now imagine you have your plugins on all these channels and the signal is hot coming in. Won't sound too good. Let alone going out the stereo out adds more distortion to it. That kind of distortion we don't want. We don't want that. All right. So when you have your plugin on, if you want to drive your plugin, you drive it with the input gain within the plugin, so you can get those sweet, nice harmonics and overtones. Um, I don't. I guess it has something to do with the the digital ones and zero when it's coming in from the input, the hot signal going into the plugin, which may cause that issue. I'm not really sure. I probably have to look in that a little more, but um, from my understanding and from me reading up on it, that's what a lot was said throughout the literature that I was reading and Googling and researching and things like that. Okay, so next, well, what do we do about that? So depending on what DAW you're in, or what digital analog workstation you're using, everything is a little bit different, but the same concept. Pro Tools has it, same concept. You use a plugin called Gain, and you can do it that way. Also, you can do this in Cubase, this is what I'm using. Cubase 11 has a Gain plugin you can use, but I like to do it at the console, as if I was working on a console. Just give you that little real world situation thing. So let's say we have the kick drum here, right? The kick drum. I'm going to put the channel up here. So this is the kick drum channel. And you can see where it peaks at minus 3.0, right? So I want to subtract. I always start with my settings. Like I want to start out with 18, like minus 18. I want to start somewhere around there. So I would subtract that from subtract that from 18, which will give me 15. And I would plug this here in the gain right here. This is my gain. This is like your input gain on the console. So I would put this in, and now it has attenuated the sound. Okay, if I solo this and listen to it now. So the kick drum is lowered, and imagine you doing all of these channels like that. So the idea, once you do that all through the channels, when you play them all at once, then you should have headroom, some dynamic range going out of your stereo, out of your master fader. You shouldn't have any clipping. It should just be a nice, smooth level. You should have some headroom. It shouldn't peak that high, and allow you to mix better. And you add your plugins in, it sounds better. Makes everything sounds better. So start with that. I'm not going to do every channel like this while you guys watching. I'm going to go ahead and probably stop this video and do take care of that, and then I'm going to come back, and then I'll show you the end result of what I did, and I'll explain it from there. All right, till then, see you guys in a few. Okay. So I finished up the gaining or the gain stage portion. It's kind of a little bit time consuming, but hey, it's done. So everything still look the same, right? The faders are still at unity gain 0 dB. I didn't touch anything. I didn't boost anything with the faders or attenuated anything with the faders. The master fader still the same. Now let's take a listen. Now let's see if we see any clipping from the master out. Okay, well, there you have it. You can see that there's no clipping. You can see that all the tracks are playing together in unison, and there's still no clipping in the master fader, and there's some headroom as well. So that's what gain staging does for us, and that's what you want to do all the time. You want to make sure that be your first thing before you put any plugins on, before you start doing anything. Just go ahead and just get that out the way and knock it out if you need it. I'm sure you will need it more than likely, especially if you have a lot of tracks going on. Maybe not so much, depending on how you record in, if it's a few tracks, but more than likely, if you have a lot of tracks, probably, yeah, because that stuff adds up. Okay, so if you look here, it's channel strip, and all I did was attenuate the input gain. I subtracted the what I want to call this. Oh, the peaks. I subtracted it. I subtracted the peak minus 18. You know, I subtracted from 18, and the sum that I got, or the outcome that I got from that, that's what I decreased in gain here. So I did all the tracks like that, depending upon their peak value on each individual track, and the outcome, as you've seen, no clipping, no distortion, and I have some headroom, so I have some stuff to play with. Okay, and also when I start to decrease or attenuate or boost certain levels here on the faders, I don't have to go all the way down here. I can just decrease little by little. Okay, so you don't lose a lot of that quality. You know what I'm saying? So gain staging is really cool. Get in the habit of doing it. Make it part of your repertoire. Your workflow or whatever. Just even if you have to write that stuff down, write it down. Write your little cheat sheet down, and when you want to start with. So the next thing I do, I already did this, but I always like to make sure that my tracks are in order. Okay, so I would put all the kick, snare, percussions, and all the drum instruments. I'll put all those together, and I'll put the bass always goes after the drums. That's how I run my order. Then I'll do like keyboard instruments, then strings, then FX. So that's how I do my little setup, just to keep it organized. And then once I do that, I'll start grouping them. So I'll create a group channel. And here, this may vary depending on what DAW you're using. How you create groups may be different from how I do it in Cubase. So this is how I do it in Cubase. So I'm gonna call this the drum group. In order, keep it clean. You want a clean session. So as you can see here, that's the drum group right here. So now I need to take all of my drum instruments and bust them all the way over to this bad boy here. Let me make sure that's a stereo. Good. Okay. To the drum group right here. So let me put it on the mixer. Here's my mixer, and I'm going to expand this a little bigger. Okay. As you can see here are my drums, the drum kit right here, and I'm going to go to the routing up top where it says here routing. I'm going to route these to the drum group. Looks like I already have the kick routed there. Like here in Cubase, if you have a channel selected, and then you choose the select channel to automatically go to the group. So that's what I did right there. So I don't have to worry about routing that to the group, as you can see here. Okay, and I'll do every drum track like that. Actually, there we go. every drum track will be like that, and you can see here that this is the output, and I'll show you when I play it that where's the sound is going. Okay, the shaker. Crash. I don't want the 808 slide there. Okay, that's it as far as all my drum sounds. Now let's play it. As you can see, all of my drum are routed here to the drum group. And that's it. That's simple. I like to keep that order like that. I would work individually with the drum kit, you know, panning things certain places, maybe attenuating something, or add, if I need to add EQ or whatever, I'll still do that, or compression on each individual track. And here's the outcome. And then I may probably do a global EQ or compression on the drum group, or some bus compression on the drum group, depending on if it's needed or not. It just, I have to go by what I'm hearing with the sound of the song. So yeah. All right. Another thing, I like to use this plugin here, made by IK Media. It's called Arc 3. Okay. Let's let this engage in. So this is Arc 3. If you don't know what this plugin is, it's pretty much a room correction plugin. Although I do have my room treated and my ceiling treated, I still use this plugin in conjunction with my treatment. Does it make a difference? Yeah, I think so. Especially when I'm, mixing in mono and certain things. So what I did was I just took samples of my room acoustics here. All right. So if you see, the green is the before. This is what my room is like, before the my target, before I try to get it as flat as I possibly could. And if you look over this side, the orange, it shows the after. The target is here. It will be always in the white. Okay, so I name it a certain name here. So I named the room. You can actually name the room whatever you want to name it. And let's see what else is cool about this plugin. It's a real-time analyzer here, RTA. It shows what my sound looks like globally, so I like to frequently use that as well. What else? If you look here, it says virtual monitoring. So let's say, for example, if I want to know what a sound sounds like in a car stereo, this is what it looks like here. And let me correct myself on this, because it was on the car stereo setting. So when I take this off, it'll go back to what my room is being corrected to, what you see here in the orange here. Okay, this is what my room was before in the green, and this is what the target is now in the orange. That's close to the target line, the orange in the sort of darker orange color. So yeah, so pretty flat, close to, it's closer, and that's what we want. Again, like if I want to listen on different speakers, I can get that frequency spectrum here for different monitors, different settings, 80s near field, N10, just give me that frequency response of each monitor that I want to listen on, as far as laptop speakers, computer speakers, like this 15-inch laptop. That's the target. That's what a laptop would sound like. And I would use this a lot because the reason why I would use this, because let's say a lot of people have phones and things, and they listen on earbuds, whatever. So they listen on some things on their phone through the speakers, and the phone speakers are not that good. So I always like to look and see where my bass, can I still hear my bass, and where it sits at, and you could see it. And if I see it, okay, hey, the bass is slacking here, so I may need to do some adjustments. I may need to add some other harmonics so it could get to that. It could fit within that frequency spectrum of the phone. So I would probably add some saturation or something, to get some of those overtones, okay, or even tones, odd tones, or harmonics, to be able to hear the bass or the sub in cell phone speakers. So keep that in mind when you're mixing. So things you want to think about. You want to use those as a best practice. Always have that, like, automatically thinking in your head. Okay, I want this song to translate well in many different mediums. So this is a cool thing. What this Art 3 allows me to see that. Although I don't stop there. Like when I'm finished with the mix, I'll even go to my truck or car and listen to it and see how it sounds and translate through the car speakers as well. So I still do those old school things. I don't eliminate that. Although they say, well, you don't have to, no need to go to your car no more. You can use this. Yeah, okay, cool. I do, but I still like to go to my car and listen. Why not? All right. So when I play this, the sound may be a little bit different. So I'll mix according to what the room has been calculated and EQ'd to. And then once I'm done, then you take it off and then you listen, and then you make some little fine tune connections or corrections if you need to. But for the most part, it comes out really good. It comes out really great. So it's a great tool, a great assistant to help out. We're going to talk a little bit about analog summing. Okay, so what I'm doing is I'm coming out of my DAW and going back into the analog analog portion of input 1 and 2, or channel 1 and 2, via the SSL2 Plus. Why would I want to do that? For numerous reasons, but my particular reason why I want to do this is because I want to take advantage of the legacy 4K buttons, which you see here. These two buttons here, okay? And I can add that sheen on top of that signal going back into the DAW. All right. So how do I have that set up? It's very simple, very easy. So on the SSL2 Plus, we have input 1 and 2, right? So, and we also have outputs 1 and 2, which is here, which is going into the satellites or the speakers or the monitors. And then we have another output of the SSL, which is the 3 and 4, which is going out of 3 and 4, which is here, going out of 3 and 4, then back into inputs 1 and 2, or channel 1 and 2. Okay. So I have that set up that way. On the external portion of it. So there's something else that I have to do once I get back into the digital domain. I have to set up Cubase, which is the software that I'm using. So I have to tell Cubase to send a signal out of 3 and 4, then come back into another signal. Come back into another channel via the DAWs, which will represent 1 and 2 input going back into the DAW. Okay, but after this video, I'll show that exercise after we do this portion. I just want to get a great understanding of what I'm doing here when it comes to analog summing. So all I'm doing, instead of summing via the digital audio workstation, I'm summing via the SSL2 Plus. Okay, so again, going out of 3 and 4, coming back in channel 1 and 2. Okay. and then I'm going to adjust my levels as I come back in, and I'm coming in line input, not mic input, but line input. I want to definitely make sure I get that, put that out there and say that, because we're not miking anything in channel 1 and 2. We're going line input. Okay. So the next thing I would do, once I got my levels and everything straight, I can be able to toggle the 4K button in and out and listen if I want that sound on there or not, which more than likely I'm sure I will want it on there. So I just wanted to say this, that if you have the SSL2 Plus, obviously, but this is why I'm doing that. It's really cool because I want to take advantage again of the Legacy 4K. And why would I do that? For I would do it just to get that little grit, that extra sheen, that extra saturation thickness, that the console offers. So this is so-called what the legacy button is supposed to do. So once we get to the next portion of this video, you will be able to hear this in effect. Okay. All right. So I hope you guys like this portion, and let's go to the next, and I'll show you how I set it up in the DAW.
Okay, so we spoke about the analog summing portion, the external part, and the hookup regarding the analog summing via the SSL2 Plus audio interface. All right, so now I'm going to show you how to set it up in your digital analog workstation. All right, so the first thing, what we're going to do, and I'm using Cubase, and it varies with different DAWs, so bear with me, and just what I'm telling you, if you're using a different DAW, and you just compare it to your inputs and outputs, so, or mirror it, if that makes sense. All right, so I'm going to show you my inputs and outputs. All right, obviously here in the audio system, I choose the SSL2 Plus as the SSL driver. Okay, and I can choose other parameters as well, as like the buffer size if I want to lower it or make it higher. Of course, if you're recording into the DAW real time, you want to lower your buffer settings to a different setting. A lower setting could be like 512, 328 sometimes. If you got a really good CPU, you go 128. All right, just to minimize the latency. That's what that's for. When you're mixing, you want to set your buffer size high, so you don't put that strain too much on your CPU when it's low like that, and you make it higher when you're dealing with plugins and mixing. Okay. All right. So we've chosen the SSL2 driver. All right. So I just want to show that part. Let's go out, get out of that. Now let's go to the audio connections. All right. Here we go. First, we go to the input. All right. So this is the input right here, right? This input bus name or input stereo in is representing on the SSL2 Plus input, which is 1 and 2, as we've seen in the previous video or earlier in the video regarding the analog summing portion, external part. Okay, so that's 1 and 2 going inside the SSL2 Plus 1 and 2. You see here on Cubase, here is my stereo input. Okay, now when I press play, you should see some level metering here activity. So let's do that. Okay, as we can see, there's activity going on in the input channel, stereo, which is 1 and 2. So I can get that stereo channel, which is the left and right channel. That makes the stereo channel. So here it is right here. So this is representing that. All right. So let's go to the output of this. So the output is representing two sections of the SSL2 Plus audio interface. This stereo bus here out is the main output 1 and 2, which we hear out our main monitors. Okay. This output 3 and 4 bus here is representing on the SSL2 Plus output 3 and 4 channels. All right. So what we're doing, we're sending all these channels here. If you see here, I'm sending all the channels that I want to go out to 3 and 4. How am I doing that? Well, what I had to do is I had to take all my drum channels and instrument channels, and I had to group them down to group channels, so I don't have to individually send them out like that. When I could just send them to a group channel or bus them to a group channel, okay, and then route that group channel out to 3 and 4. And this is what I did here. As you can see, output 3 and 4. So this is the drum group. This is representing all the drum instruments, okay, and one group channel, which is output 3 and 4. Same thing with the instruments, 3 and 4. Or even if I have effects or any type of a track that needs to go out to 3 and 4, I would route it that way. All right. So it makes it a lot easier and keep everything organized, should I say. Now, if you notice here, you would see output 3 and 4. You see the stereo out, the main out, and you see the output 3 and 4 here. Now, when I play the music, again, you should see activity in this meter here of output 3 and 4. Okay, there again, we see activity there. Now, still not finished. Well, if I didn't do something else, this last part, what I need to do, you wouldn't be able to hear what's playing. You will see it, but you wouldn't be able to hear it. Let's say, okay, this channel here. Let me go here. Let me pull this channel up. This is a new audio channel that I had to add. Okay, and I called it the SSL summed stereo channel. That's pretty much the sum of everything that's coming out of output 3 and 4 into 1 and 2. But you have to tell Cubase, okay, I want, which channel do you want to play these input channels that's coming in externally from the SSL2 Plus? So I added an audio channel. I added an audio channel. And I had to make my settings. So what you see here is the SSL sum, stereo out, and then the stereo in. So basically, I told the stereo in portion of it to see the stereo inputs, which we seen here in the audio connector. Okay, 1 and 2. This is stereo 1 and 2 going inside the audio input channel here, okay, which is here in this box here. Let me move the box over to this side so you can see a little better. Okay, now I also had to set it out. This audio channel needs to go out so we can hear out of our main monitor. Sorry, I just got a little tongue twisted, or that out twisted, I guess you could say that. So I have to set it to tell Cubase to play out of the satellites or your whatever studio monitors you're using. All right, so I set it to stereo output. If you go here in the output section of the audio connection, you could see that output 1 and 2 is showing, which is the main output 1 and 2 of the SSL2 Plus. Okay, so that's why we're hearing the sound, because it's coming out of 1 and 2. So that is your routing. I know it's a little crazy, but we are demystifying it, and as simple as possible. I didn't want to get too crazy, so I tried to make it simple as possible. If you need to go back and review some portions of this video, please do. I think I took my time to where you could probably follow through and just pause it and think about what I'm doing and think about what I'm saying. And if you have an SSL2 Plus, and just practice those signal chains, what I've just displayed here. Okay, so there you have it. This is how we set it up in our DAW. Now, the next thing I want to talk about, well, what was the reason why you wanted to sum through your SSL2 Plus? Well, we wanted to use the SSL Legacy 4K button on the SSL2 Plus. So now what we're going to do is here before and after when the SSL Legacy 4K button is bypassed, and when I press both of the buttons on the 1 and 2 channels in, then the signal will be going through that that pass or that chain that they added to on the 1 and 2 input channels of the SSL2 bus. Okay, so we'll compare it and see if we hear differences, or talk about what we're hearing when we make these changes or bypass. Okay, and engage in the buttons. So let's go ahead and do that. So I'm going to play the song, or I'm going to play the song without the Legacy 4K button engaged. Okay, that's without the buttons engaged. Now I'm going to go ahead and press the buttons and engage the buttons in and see if you hear a difference. And then I'm going to toggle back and forth, bypass, and engaging the buttons in also as well. All right, here we go. Buttons in. All right, there you go. That's the Legacy 4K button. I like it. Yes, obviously it gets a little louder, but there's some differences, subtle differences that's going on. There's some boosting in certain high frequencies, little thickness going on there. Maybe some, that saturation that you're adding as well in there, and other harmonics. So yes, I like this 4K button, and I will be using it throughout the mix. I just want to show you guys the summing portion and what you could do. There's other ways you could sum externally out of your DAW, so you're not limited with just summing with the DAW um, summing parameters that you have in your DAW. So hope you like this portion of it. And I want to say one thing too before we go on and move forward. I want to talk about how am I mixing, and I'll show you here. Okay, so I'm using the art. So I'm using my little plugin from IK Media. That's the room correction. So I'm mixing through there, and I'm also doing something else that I didn't say or really mention earlier. Is so when I mix, I like to have a reference track. Unfortunately, I can't let you hear the reference track. Um, I don't want to violate any YouTube licenses or restrictions or anything like that. So, just to give you a little tip, I use this plugin. It's by Sample Magic called Magic A and B, and what it does is you could use multiple references to your song that you're mixing to give what it does, it gives you a goal where you want your song to go. Not that you're copying that mix, but you want it to be in that same realm at the finished product. So that's the goal that you're shooting for. Okay, so I'm doing drill, right? So obviously I'm going to have a song that I'm referencing, and it's a drill song. All right, but I don't want to play it due to that, so I can't do that, unfortunately. But I just wanted to put that out there, so when you're mixing what you're referencing to, and also what I like to do, I also like to mix in mono. So what you've been hearing so far is in mono. I'm going to play it in stereo, and you'll hear the difference. So my thing is, mix it in mono. If it sounds good in mono as you're mixing, it'll sound good in stereo. So that's what I like to do. I like to toggle back and forth between mono and stereo, and you'll see me do that a lot throughout this mix. Also, I toggle between the room correction software. Let's hear the difference when I'm engaging the room correction software in and out or bypassing. Okay, here we go. Let's play it. Okay, so I was just showing you a combination of both plugins and engaging both of them in and out, and also using the mono function just to show you the differences. So, like I said earlier, I mix in mono, and also I check back in stereo. And then once I'm done, I'll do this thing called final walkthrough, the stereo portion of it, to make little fine adjustments here and there. Okay, so you want more information about the Arc 3 plugin by IK Media, definitely look into it. There's YouTube videos all over on this thing to go in detail. I won't really have a lot of time to go in detail on this. All right, so that's it for this portion of it, and let's get back into the mix. I'll describe how am I adding EQ on channels and what I'm doing throughout the mix. All right, have a good day. Well, not actually have a good day, but moving on to the next portion of this tutorial. All right, players, let's roll.
Okay. So now we're back to the mixing portion of mixing drill, and I'm pretty much going to run through some of the channels and show you why I did what I did and what decisions that I made according to this mix. I'm going to try to get through this kind of fast, not too fast, but I'm just going to show you certain equalization, compression, and mix bus settings. We went through the summing process with the SSL2 Plus via the inputs 1 and 2 channels, and using the legacy 4K buttons, getting that sheen. So I'm going to toggle between those two so you can hear the differences as well. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. Play the song. All right, so I'm going to toggle between the legacy 4K buttons on the SSL2 Plus so you can hear the differences with those buttons engaged and disengaged. All right, so there you have it. That you can hear a difference. Of course, it gets a little louder, but you can also hear a nice sheen that's added to the mix. Also, you hear a little saturation, that legacy 4K that is coming from an SSL console that they added into the circuit of their audio interface. So that's what you're definitely hearing. All right, so I think I'm going to keep that added to the mix. I like it because it adds a little more flavor to it, and that's what we trying to achieve here. All right, so let me go ahead and press play, and well, let's go here to the kick channel, right? And I'm show you what I did to the kick, and I'm going to solo it. All right, so we have the kick solo. Let's pull up the channel. All right, so I'm going to bypass the plugin that I'm using. As a matter of fact, I'm going to bypass everything and let you hear what the kick sound like before I put post equalization and compression on it. All right, so this is what the kick sound like with nothing on it, and I'm going to engage the bypass button so you can hear the effects. All right, let's talk about why I made these decisions. So I didn't do too much to the kick. I did a little roll off on a filter at 20 hertz. I just wanted to get rid of some unwanted low frequencies that I didn't need. So I did do a boost in the low frequencies, around about 50 hertz per se. I really wanted that kick to have some beef to it. And the low mid frequencies, I did a little boost. Let's see what I did it around. I didn't do too much of it. The mid frequencies, I did a boost probably at 1.5K. And the high frequencies, I did a boost at around about 8Ks. All right. So compression, didn't do too much compression, a little light compression, which you can see here. What I did do in the input channel of the console, as I spoke earlier throughout the class, I said that when we were talking about gain staging, how you want to drive the input to get certain saturations and certain colors. But we know what happens if you're doing that before the plugins. It's just going to overdrive the plugin and run it to where it sounds bad. So I'm doing it actually within the plugin. So I'm doing it post input, if that makes sense. So I drove up the input in the plugin so I can add some of those harmonics, that good distortion, what we like to hear, that good overtones that we like to hear. So I did that, and that's pretty much all I did with the kick. And again, this is what we coming up with, the kick here. Okay. So that's the kick. All right. So let's move on. So I want to get through this a little bit. I'm just going to solo the snare. And I'm not going to go through each individual track. I just want you to get the idea when you're mixing. When you're mixing each individual track, and address each individual track. And also when you're mixing, don't solo and mix. Oh, I'm sorry. Don't solo and add boosting or cutting. You want to do that in conjunction with the whole mix as a whole. So you want to see how it sounds and how it goes with the mix. Not, it may sound good when you do your editing and adding, boosting, and cutting. You know, when you have the button solo, but when you go back into the mix, it sounds horrible. So think about that and make it a best practice to do that when you're dealing with soloing and EQing and stuff. All right, this is the snare. So I gave the snare. Let's go to the channel. All right, let's forward this a bit. All right, here we go. So the snare. Okay, play. As you can see, I did a little bit boosting in the low frequency around, say, 280 hertz. Didn't really do much of the low mid frequencies, no boosting there. A little bit boosting around 4K, and then some more boosting around 8K. You know, give that, you know, that snap and that crack to the snare. I did a little filtering, some frequencies that I didn't need, so I filtered out here. I did a little compression, probably around about, I'm doing actually some, about 6 dBs of compression. All right. Also, again with this, I didn't push the input channel much in the snare, so I don't think I needed to do that. So that's just what I did with this snare, and nothing real big, nothing major. Just did it according to the mix, and I'll play it unsolo so we can hear it. Let's check it out. As you can hear and see, that snare is punching through the mix, you know, so we're getting some really good sound, and that's what we want, especially when we're dealing with drill. All right, let's move forward. I'm gonna solo the drum kit itself. We'll talk about the drum bus. Let's go to the drum bus. So we got the idea of what we would do when we're mixing each individual instrument within the drum kit. So let's talk about the drum group, and I'm gonna solo this as well and press play so you can hear the drum group. So as we can see with the drum bus solo, it's very punchy, and it's really pulling its way through the mix, punching its way through the mix. We seeing a lot of the snares getting through, kick getting through, everything's getting through. That's what we want to achieve. And I want to pull something up on the drum group, and I want to show you something. All right, so I'm not doing any EQ on the drum. I'm just doing a little bit tape saturation, a little bit brick wall limiting here. Nothing serious, nothing too, you know, nothing grand or major. Let's pull up this compressor. This is a compressor. It's made by Purple Audio. It's actually emulated by Brainworks, but you know, from the Purple Audio gear, which is a replica from the 1176, but with its own attitude and its own character. Love this. This is where I'm getting. I'm actually doing parallel compression, and what is parallel compression is, what you're doing is you're compressing. You're compressing the sound, but you're not compressing fully 100%. You compress it at a taste, a desired taste that you like, that fits well with the mix. So let's play it and let's see the differences. So I'm gonna bypass. All right, when I push the bypass button in and disengage it, we hear that punch come back in. So that's what that parallel compression gives us, more punch, more space, you know, to be represented in the mix. Okay, I didn't do too much hard compression. I just did it at 4:1 ratio. Nothing serious, nothing too hard, just to get it where I want. Tack is a fair amount, release a fair amount. That's pretty much it. So that is the drum bus. I didn't do nothing with the instruments bus. Actually, I meant to add my tape saturation here, and then it's just a little bit, just nothing too grand. Didn't see a need for no equalizations or anything like that, because there's no vocals. If it was vocals in this mix, then you know you want to focus on the vocal more than the song. The song should not outdo the vocal. The vocal is an instrument itself, so we always want to remember that as a best practice. If we do have that issue, you want to look at the frequencies that's in the vocal, and you want to look at the frequencies from your instruments, and if they are competing with each other, you want to cut back or attenuate those frequencies from the instruments, not the vocal, because the vocal should always be the main priority. Okay, the song should not outdo a vocal, and whatever beat, it should support the vocals all the time. The beat might be fire, that's cool, but never outdo the vocals. All right, moving on. Let's go to the master bus out, the master channel out. All right, let's talk about this. I'll tell you what I did here. So I did a lot of post-processing on the master channel out. I'll start with this first one here. This is the Virtual Console emulator
by Stephen Slate. So I added this on just to give it that feel of the sound coming out the stereo bus of an SSL, which it gives those characteristics of it. What you can see here, the British 4KG channel and so forth. And you have other channels here, but I selected with the SSL because it just fits with this song. I like it for that. All right, next. This is a multi-band compressor. I use this, but I only use this for one setting. There is a setting that was created by Greg Wells, most renowned engineer. And I use these settings in the multi-band compressor because as soon as I put it on, it brings out those mid frequencies really well. Let's try to do a bypass and on and off, and let's hear the differences. Okay, bypass. Okay, the button is engaged. There's no bypass, so we hear the effect. Bypass again. Disengage. So what I liked about this setting is it tightened up that mid range a little. You know, it got control of the mid range throughout the whole mix. So I really like this setting, and this actually was created by Greg Wells, and he gave his parameter settings on a multi-band compressor, and I just wrote them down, put it to work, and I've been using it ever since. And I use it on all the songs. It works for every song, so it's part of my plug-in palette. All right, let's go and move on to the next. I'm using this is the mix bus compression by Brainworks. All right, let's talk about the settings here. Now, this plugin is a replica from the G Plus compressor, bus compressor on the SSL console. What they did was they took parts of the compressors or parts of the console, and they put it different consoles, and they put it with one compressor to give it a certain sound, but it's still in the ballpark of a G bus compressor, but got its own character. All right, so let's take a look at my settings. All right, well, when I talk about glue is saying that I want to gel things together. I want the whole mix to come together and gel, and just work together and with a good even flow. So if you look at my threshold, well, let's go here. The ratio, you want the ratio very low because you don't want it to do much compression, all right? Because you still want your transients to come through. So you would set your ratio at 2-to-1 ratio. Your attack, you don't want a hard attack. Well, let's go back around. The ratio is how much compression will happen. So you don't want a high ratio that you'll get a lot of compression. So we're getting less compression. All right. Now back to the attack. The attack is the one that we want to have slow and not fast, which allowing some of the transients to come through. And it just tame it. The transients just a little bit, but allow the majority to come through. That's how we're able to get that punch. All right. And the release as well. You don't want a fast release. Because you'll start getting those audible effects and pumping. We don't want that, but that may work in other genres such as EDM or so forth, or electronic music. All right, so we got it at the lowest setting. Makeup gain is pretty much saying that how much compression that's happening, that's being reduced, audio that's being reduced. I'll make up that gain with this makeup gain dial here. All right. The threshold is just saying how much you want it to be compressed, that reach that threshold or that level. When that sound hits that level, then that's when the compressor will begin compressing the whole mix. All right, so let's take a listen to this.
right, let's bypass it. Get a difference? Let's bypass again. All right, so this is our glue mix bus compression. So we're getting that glue, just bring all the instruments together and make it cohesive and just work well with the ears. All right, so let's move forward. I'm not trying to move too fast, but I am moving fast. I just don't want this video to be too long, you know, and I just want you guys to get a lot of it out. And that way, keep you entertained. All right, so the next plugin I'm using is the Bax EQ. Not doing too much on here. I did some cutting to tighten up the low end a little bit. I did a little bit of boosting in the mid range. I think it's what, let's see, it looks like 4K or something like that. Also, I used the mid side function. So the middle side, I've been doing some EQ, a little bit EQ there. And then the sides, I didn't really do much to that. So that's all I did with this. I did a little bit cutting on the output because I wanted to keep the peaking around about 6 dBs. I'm trying to keep some headroom for mastering. So that's something you want to keep in mind when you're doing your mix, and always think about that and use that as a best practice as well. All right, so let's go ahead and click out plugin, and let's go to the Oxford Inflator by Sonics. I love this thing, man. If you don't have this plugin, get it. This thing will make anything sound good. It adds a combination of saturation, tape feel around the whole thing with different curves. You could actually boost this thing up with the effect knob here, and it won't make it get louder, but it will maybe thicken up the sound and still keep a great nominal level. All right, so I'll play it and we'll bypass it. So let's bypass. Okay, so you can see the differences there. Again, great plug-in. If you don't have it, it should be a part of your arsenal in your mixing palettes of plugins. All right, so let's go ahead and get out of here, and let's talk about the Arc by IK Media. Love this plugin. It is a room correction plugin. I use it faithfully on all my mixes when I'm mixing. Why would I use it? Well, it helps with you know, kind of EQing your room, which I already have my room sort of naturally EQ with acoustic panels and acoustic ceiling panels, but it never hurts it by using this plugin as well. So I use it throughout the mix. I use it to look at the real time analyzer to see where my mix is going. Let's check it out. I'm going to engage it in, but it's going to sound a little bit different. Okay, there we go. You can see the low end here. You can see that mid section. Vocals will probably sit around here somewhere. Okay. Now, I love this plugin for the fact that it could let me listen to it in different environments. Let's say if I want to know what it would sound like on a cell phone. I want to know what it would sound like on computer monitors. I want to know what it would sound like on home consumer stereo monitors. So let's go ahead and check this out. All right, so I want to know what it would sound like on a laptop. Now, what this song will sound like on a laptop. And look at the frequency response. Okay, notice the reason why I do this is I want to make sure that my low end is being translated well, because the frequency response is cutting off a lot of the low end below, let's say it starts cutting around about 220. So we're losing a lot of the low end, but yet I'm still getting low end because of the sub and how I mixed it. I mixed it with some saturation and added other harmonics in the upper frequencies. So that was able to pass through these monitors that will be played on a phone or whatever. So you still be able to hear the low end. Okay. So let's see what it sounds like. And let's see, wait a minute. Okay, got it. Let's see what it sounds like on a smartphone. Look at the frequency response on a smartphone. Okay, man, it's the low end is really cut out. Let's see if it will still punch through, or it will still translate through here. Okay, let's check it out. As we can see, our 808 is coming through. The kick's still punching through. And that's what mixing all about. You want to be able to make it sound good in all different mediums. All right. Let's see what it sounds like on a TV. Like sometimes you want to play your music on an LCD TV. All right. Let's see. That's the frequency response that it's showing us. So we're definitely going to get some low end there. All right, that's dope. We hear that. Now, what we mostly hear music in, also whether it's obviously it's our phones and iPods and stuff, but also when we're driving in our car. So let's see what it would sound like in a car stereo. Car stereo pretty much will let us hear a lot of the frequencies. So I'm going to play it and check this out. All right, cool. So that is the Arc 3 plugin. All right. So last plugin I want to talk about, but I can't play the full function of this plugin because I don't want any licenses issued, because I spoke about earlier about track referencing. So when I'm mixing, I always want to reference from some other song so I can have a goal or something that I'm trying to meet. Why mix and you don't have a goal? Well, what are you mixing for? What are you trying to shoot for? So we use reference tracks to shoot for a goal, to shoot for something that we want in that specific genre. Obviously, I'm mixing drill, so I'm going to use a drill song to reference from. And it's not that you're copying that mix. What you're doing, you're just trying to bring up your song to that standard of the song that's playing on the radio. So that's what you always want to aim and shoot for when you're mixing. Okay. So this is the plugin that I use that will allow me to do this. It's a plugin made by Sample Magic AB. Definitely a good plugin to pick up. But if you don't, you can always set it up in your monitoring section, in your control room section of your DAW, and you can set up headphone mixes or stereo mixes, different mixes, and be able to A/B them when you're playing back and forth the song. So again, I can't play the reference track because I don't want any licenses issues, or the stuff that we have to go through on social media. So definitely wanted to speak about that. Just a recap of everything. We talked about gain staging. We talked about the summing, analog summing.
We spoke about how we mix different audio tracks, different instruments, different drum instruments, adding EQ compression here and there. Um, if I really sat with you and mixed this song, it would take hours and hours because there's so much you could do. So it's not about you teaching somebody how to mix. It's just showing you some of the fundamentals and you make them your own, okay? You make whatever makes the sound good, you do what you got to do to make that sound good. Never always say, oh, we got to do this, we got to do that, we got to go by this way or this standard. Well, you learn the basic fundamentals, and then once you learn those fundamentals, then you could keep it moving and ride out and do your thing. All right, so please like, subscribe, and hit that notification button, and even share this video to other upcoming engineers that's trying to get out there and do their thing, and producers as well, you know. So just to get a good understanding of mixing and music production. That being said, you guys have a good day, and I'm out, and I'm going to get back to my final mixing. Also, the link below, you will be able to click on that link below, and you will hear the final mix mastered as well. I have a link for you guys to check it out, the finished song. All right, so have a good day, man. God bless y'all.